What's going on, guys? It's PoetRaeMonet, and I am here on behalf of my wonderful Facebook group and this new video series, which is going to be for the authors of Erotica. Not only is it, a challenge, just writing a book and becoming an author, but of course, as we know, you can't just sit on your laurels and be comfortable after you've made that book, because now you have to go out and sell it, you have to produce it, you have to do so many incredible things with it along the way. But of course, you got to start with the basics. So today we're going to be talking about the parts of a book and what should be included in your poetry book, and of course, your erotic poetry book as well. So one of the things that we're going to get started with, talking about in that regard is, of course, the cover of your book. As many of you guys know, I've published several different books at this point, and my very, very first book, okay, people very rarely see this book, all right, but it looks like this. This is The Birds, the Bees, and the Boudoir, my original cover. As you guys can see, that's me. I kind of just took an image, transposed it. I use Photoshop actually to create my covers. Some people use, things like, you have your Adobe, products that people get into and use. They have different like word processors and things like that, and image processors that people use as well. And to each his or her own, okay? I'm not here to recommend products. I'm just letting you know the parts of the book. Now, the cover, again, should, of course, display the title. This is The Birds, the Bees, and the Boudoir. The name of the author, PoetRaeMonet, that's me. And, of course, a photograph, something that, you would hope that would be compelling, to kind of draw people in. And, of course, something that is going to kind of maybe give a hint as to what might be inside of the book as well. Now, again, this was just my first book, but this is also the first edition of this book. And I have here the second edition, kind of like same like font, little change in the like imaging a little bit, kind of softens it up a little bit more. I think I like it a little bit better, that's up to you. But of course, then I have, a few other books as well. The Bedroom Companion, that's, very sexy right off the bat. I think that kind of gives that away. And Hurt Poems for Hurt People. So not only the title giving that away here, but of course that image of the broken heart as well. Now, I like to go simple for my covers. Everyone doesn't do that. You don't have to do that, okay? I want you to remember that this is your work, it's your project, and you can do whatever you want to do, okay? Because again, this is yours, this is something that you are creating. So whatever vision that you have, work hard to make it come true, whether that's through photographs. As you can see back here on the wall, that's the cover for Hurt Poems that I painted there, and then just behind me here is the cover for the Bedroom Companion. Like those I painted, and I decided to create those and make those into my book cover. So whatever you're going to do to like make that vision come true, like do it and translate it as best you can, or as best that you feel is going to really kind of emulate your work. Now I do want to point out as well that of course covers, again, like you really just want them to pull them in. You need that title to also be very visible. You never want to hide the cover of your book, on your, or excuse me, the title of your book on your cover. So let's talk about things that are inside of the book as well. So that's going to be the title page when you get into the book as well. Sorry, so a little saucy writing in there. Okay, now again, we're kind of going back to this first one. I decided to make things very plain here. The Birds, the Bees, and the Boudoir, very straight up. Again, in the second one, I decided to change it around, to make it a little, a little more, on brand with what was happening on the outside of the book as well. But we'll talk about that in a bit. I want to point out after you have that title page that says, you know, what the book is, who it's by, the next thing you're going to go to, and you don't have to include your name on that title page if you don't want to. But again, it's something that you can do. Again, this is your project. So there are lots of things that are optional. This, however, is not. This is not optional at all. This is the copyright area of the book. So when we're talking about copyright area, that's basically, it's giving not only the title of the book, the copyright, you know, year, author, and that information, but it's also saying that, hey, like you can't, you know, and you can look at several of examples, not only in books that you have now and you own in your own home, look online as well for different examples. Go to the U.S. Copyright Office. They have examples as well for things that you can use and put in for your actual language. Mine says, you know, all rights reserved, printed in the United States of America, you know, by CreateSpace, an Amazon company, which it was at the time. No part of this book may be used to reproduce in any manner whatsoever without written permission, except in the case of brief quotations embodied in critical articles and reviews. For more information, contact the author at, you know, I give my email, PoetRaeMonet@gmail, just in case you want to hit me up. Now, I do want you guys to know as well that, you know, here down at the bottom, you're going to have your ISBN number or your ISBN numbers. Okay, so that just depends on what and how many you're issued, you know, at that time. And so that's going to be exactly where you put this information. You are never, ever, ever going to want to skip this page. It can have some pretty big ramifications. Now, of course, right after that is your table of contents. Table of contents, again, those can be however you want them to. You know, I just kind of decided to go with this kind of format for my first book, I think. Let me see. Yeah, this table of contents is a lot different. And it spans a couple of pages, you know, the way that I decided to do it. So, you know, again, it's up to you, whatever kinds of things that you want to produce. But you know, these things kind of need to be there, those table of contents. So next up is a dedication page. Some people decide to include this, some people decide to skip it. I have been kind of on both ends of that. But I normally save my words for the acknowledgement section. Now, some people put, you know, dedication and acknowledgement all in kind of one bundle, which I mean, really it is. And you can put it either at the beginning or the end of the book. I reserve it for the end. Let's see, let's talk about as well your introduction, because that's a really big thing. With a book of poetry, of course, you know, when people go in reading your work, you don't know what they are going to expect. You don't know what, how they're going to interpret your work, especially if they have no basis for understanding it. So that is going to be your time to shine. That's where you as the author speak directly to your readers and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish with, you know, these works that are here. This is, you know, the purpose behind my work. You know, this is the goal, you know, that I'm trying to meet with this work. And then that kind of also invites your reader to take a journey with you, and they're able to, you know, really understand a lot more the context of your work and exactly, you know, the full breadth of emotion of what you're putting into it. Because, you know, I think that we can all tell when people have like kind of skipped or like kind of missed the point just a little bit, right? So those might be the people who kind of skip the introduction as well. So you definitely want to make sure that your work is also possible to be understood on both levels, let's say. Okay, so after you get into your introduction, you want to go right into your chapter headings. Now, let's talk about this, chapter headings. Of course, if you don't want to break your work up into chapters, You don't have to break up your work into chapters. You don't have to break up your work at all if you don't want to. Saul Williams once published an entire book that was just one poem. The whole book, you guys, was one poem. It blew my mind. Again, the incredible ingenuity of creativity, that I think is being shown there. So I think that we should definitely flex our creative muscles. Again, this is your book, your project. And I can only tell you how to do like the formatting, but I can't tell you how to be creative. You know what I mean? And I think we all know that. Anyway, let me stick to what we're talking about, chapter headings. So for those of you who are going to do them, definitely you're going to, of course, want to take your work, sort it, break it down according to, category, or maybe escalation of emotion. All kinds of things can determine those chapters for you, and really only you know what it's going to be. But let's take a look at some of them here. So I'm taking a look right now at the bedroom companion because I decided to do zippers. Okay, so that's like the chapter 2 zipper right there. Let me pull back to chapter 1. Chapter 1 zipper is like way up here, right? And then chapter 2, the zipper comes down just a bit. Chapter 3, of course, I bet you guys can predict it. Yeah, the zipper is going to go down just a little bit further. I think I passed it. Oh, actually, yeah. Wide open. But I turned that to the side more for the entendre. But one of the things that I highly recommend that you do is try to keep your chapter headings, as you can see, like the actual text, you know what I'm saying, is consistent. Oh, I lost my pages, but the text is consistent on each of the chapter headings, even if the image might not be. Also, don't be afraid to just use, that little portion of the page. You can use a huge amount of the page if you want to. For this book, again, my original one, I just kind of went plain. I really wanted to get my book out there and just have a project and just, be done. So I went chapter 1, boom. Okay. Like that's the way it went. However, in the new book, or the newer version, or second edition, I kind of kept that, but I jazzed it up a little bit. I decided to, add a photograph, on the side of this as well. And I did that in, on every chapter heading, and just kind of like, I decided to take all of my photographs and turn them into like sketches, like little drawings, so that it was kind of, kind of like you could be the person in the photograph. Like that was my, kind of thought process behind it. But who knows, everybody interprets it in different ways. I just wanted to kind of make it a little bit different. I do, of course, highly advocate the use of photographs as well in poetry books. I think that it is a wonderful way to convey additional emotion. And, I do use photographs, from time to time. Now let's see. So after you go through all of your chapters, content, and when we're talking about content as well, of course, we're talking about inserting your poems. I need to let you guys know something really important as well. Okay. When you write your poems, when you're, typing your poems, when you're putting them in your book, they do not have to all be left aligned. They don't have to all have a capital letter at the beginning of the line, because that's the way the computer puts it. You control that, okay? So if it's not the end of that sentence, you don't have to make it, a capital letter. Like, that's up to you. Now, this is like looking at, and as you guys can see as well, and this is something that you might want to keep in mind also. I don't know if you guys can see this, but chapter 1 is right here. As soon as you turn the page, you can kind of see the circle from chapter 1 here on this page. I took that into consideration, which is also why I put this poem, this short poem, almost in the center of the page, almost exactly in the center of this circle. So that's something that I take into consideration, but I'm also a little bit of a perfectionist. So, So we've got stuff, different poems that are formatted in different ways. And for this, again, for this first copy, I pretty much use like all of the same text to really kind of keep everything consistent. Sorry, I'm terrible at this. I should learn how to do this, right, if I'm an author. Um, read to the crowd, right? But I pretty much use like a consistent, amount of text, throughout the entire book, and just kind of varied the actual composition of the pages, which was fun. However, however, uh, switch up. Okay, like I said, you live and you learn, right? So a lot of the text, okay, oh, I'm sorry, I've got like all kinds of bookmarks and all kinds of things in my books here. But so some of the text has changed, right? Some of these things have changed. Um, you know, there's some places where I make or I use like rather large quotes, that just kind of take up some space here, just to kind of point out important things. I have author's notes here. And these are, for me to kind of redirect my readers kind of back to, things that I might be important or things that they might miss in the midst of the poetry. So again, these are just things I decided to do. You don't have to do them. So I change up, the text a lot. Like this is a cursive poem next to like a block text. Like it's craziness in here. But I also think that it might maybe keep the reader a little more visually interested in the book as well. So again, those are just things that I do. Now, after you've done, chapter, chapter heading, like kind of gotten all of that content out of there, all of your chapters are in the book. So the last thing you want to do is kind of go to the end of the book, right? You want to get all of those types of things done. So yeah, let's talk about the end of the book a bit. What I do. Again, guys, I've decided to end the book by kind of just leaving like a photo, like a see you next time, like whatever. Like that's not a thing, again, that you have to do. It's something that I do. But these next parts, lots of authors do include. Okay, so this is a really good one. Don't forget to add these books to your collections. Okay, they tell you exactly what books I have. You get to see the actual covers. You know where they're available. Boom, right away, off the break. That way, if they want to get involved with more of your work, it's kind of a call to action, like get yours right now, This is where I include my about the author information. Here I have information on Susie's Kids, which is a nonprofit organization I'm trying to begin. This is information for special thank yous. So my acknowledgments, that's where these are. And then the last page, and I think this is important for all of you as well, all of my social media information. Like you always will know every way that you can possibly get in contact with me if you're one of my readers. And I want my readers to get in contact with me. I want their feedback. I want them to leave reviews. And in my future books, I'm also going to include a call for reviews. Like, did you enjoy this book? Please tell me online. So I highly recommend that you guys add one of those as well. Now, of course, the last thing we need to talk about is the back cover. Okay. And one of the things that I thought was really fun with Hurt Poems for Hurt People was when you have this book open, you can see that like there's this entire like pool of blood. There's like this entire broken heart. Like it's like really visual and like really striking. And I think that, other people like who are walking by are gonna like take a second look at what's on that book. It's the same little trick that I've pulled here in the Bedroom Companion, where if you have this book open and you're reading it as well, you know, it kind of pulls that same kind of visual trick. Now, I've done a couple of different things on my back covers. Um, Again, we got to go to the first one because it's hilarious to me now. But this one was a okay. So I did a poem. All right, there's this is a short poem that's listed here. As you guys can see, it's fading and it's text. Super smart move, but not so much because, of course, you're not really able to see those ends of the text. And I thought it was like visually interesting at the time, which it is, but it's not really lending itself to being read. There I have a little information about myself, a small photo, and of course, you know, you're always going to have your ISBN numbers and your excuse me, your ISBN numbers as well as your barcodes. So, um, taking a look, you know, again, second book, front cover there, back cover here. I just did a plain kind of back cover here. Just block text letting you know what the book is about, just straight up information, me to the reader, like, hey, like, let's focus on this. Come on in and read this book. Again, another photo. Okay, this photo paired with this photo on the front, I think is kind of giving, again, that kind of reinforcing that, oh, this is a bit of a sexy book. Like, maybe I want to check that out. Which is, again, a contrast to these photos. Like, this is more like thinking, okay, because they can't tell the, you know, I've blacked out and blurred out enough that they can't really tell like exactly what's going on here, but it just looks like contemplating. It looks like a nice scroll on the back. That's not what's happening in this book. Um, so I want to point out, kind of moving forward, Bedroom Companion. Um, this one, you know, is kind of, it's giving like a blurb, like, oh, okay, this is from, you know, the author of this other book. It's like super racy still. And then you have this quote on the back of the book, which is very provocative. And that provocative quote, you know, then followed up, you know, kind of by like a, you know, kind of sexy picture. So again, it's reinforcing everything that's inside. You know, same goes here for her poems. This one is, again, kind of just talking about the actual book itself, what you're going to find inside, a little bit of author information, and an author photo. So I think that, and I mean, not even I think, but the reason that those author photos change, the reason that the text changes as well is not only because I may have found like the one thing was or wasn't working for a book, but also because it has to all come down to branding. Okay, you have to be able to say, okay, well, this is my brand, this is what I want to stand on, this is the kind of stuff that I want to produce, and this is the kind of thing that my readers should expect from me. So when you're producing a project, you really do try to think about it from end to end. Like, you want all of the text to be, you know, consistent with like, you know, with the sound and the tone of that poem. You know, you want the, excuse me, you want the you know, chapter headings, the pictures to be reflective of those poems and the tone of those poems. You want, you know, your cover, your back cover, your author photo, all of those things should be all consistent and all in lockstep with each other, because as soon as something is out of step and you have this kind of thing, then there's all these other questions of, well, why did this nice girl go and do that? And she doesn't look like the kind that would do that. And well, da 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 da. And all of these other things spiral and they take you off of your main focus. Excuse me. I think that's a sign that I've talked plenty. So I'm just going to leave you guys with those things. Again, we've got the cover of the book, your title page, copyright, table of contents, dedication, introduction, chapter headings and content, acknowledgement, kind of coming soon, kind of read more pages, author info, that cover. We have covered all of that stuff today. I cannot believe it. But I'm so glad that you guys were able to stick it out with me and learn a little bit of information about how to put together your first poetry book and your first erotic poetry book. So stick around. I'm going to have more and shorter videos for the authors of Erotica series. Once again, guys, I'm PoetRaeMonet. Please like and subscribe to the video, and you can check me out all over the web anywhere using the name @PoetRaeMonet.